Hi there, friends. Ken here, your Thrifty Apprentice. Happy Friday, everybody. And in today's video, we're going to be talking about pigment numbers. So, you may be asking yourself, what's the big deal with pigment numbers? Well, pigment numbers are an important tool used by manufacturers to identify various color combinations. They are usually printed and included with watercolor paints. They can be used to distinguish between different hues even when they look similar. Let's take a look. So here we have a watercolor paint tube and a watercolor paint half pan. Let's look at the information. The pigment information typically on a watercolor paint tube is on the back of the tube. You will find a lot of information there, including the reference number for the color chart, the name given to the color, and pigment number, in this case, pigment PR254. On half pans, you can typically find this information printed 1 on the box, or 2 on a booklet or leaflet included in the box, or 3 on the side of the half pan when the information is included. Here we have the company or the line watercolor name, we have the reference number for the color chart, and then right below that the pigment, which in this case is yellow, PY3. So why is this information important? Here are at least 3 reasons that they are. Number 1, knowing these pigment codes can help you identify specific colors and their properties, including light fastness, opacity, granulation, and staining qualities. Number 2, pigment numbers are really helpful to translate colors from one medium to another. And number 3, it can help you choose your paint and give you a better understanding of color mixing. At this point, you may be asking, okay, what does the number stand for? The number classifies the chemical composition. The P stands for the word pigment, followed by a letter that represents the color family name, and the number represents where the color falls within the hue. So, does that mean that watercolors without pigment numbers aren't any good? Absolutely not. Many companies and manufacturers produce watercolor paint sets that do not come with the relevant information. This could include light fast ratings, pigment numbers, or even opacity. This in no way takes away from the actual quality of what a particular paint set may have. The only way to know good or bad is to paint with the paints. Let's take a look. Here we have a 36 count watercolor set. Now the brand that I'm showing you does not matter, and we'll talk about that more in just a moment. What does matter is the ability to show you that this watercolor set does not include pigment information on the back of the box, nor does it include it on the watercolor swatching sheet or on the pamphlet that's included inside the box along with the paint set. However, as you can see, these paints are still very bright and saturated and can be used across many different paintings and many different painting styles. So, hey there, family. I just wanted to take a moment to say thank you and to let you all know you are really amazing. And if you happen to have liked this video up to this point, please go ahead and sprinkle a little love by hitting that thumbs up. It really helps the channel out and prompts YouTube to put it in front of other wonderful viewers just like yourself. Okay, let's stay focused. Now, why did I say we'd save the branding conversation for later? Because Doodle Hog is a budget company that private labels its art products, and private labeling, in all honesty, is a video all by itself. So what I would like to do is stay focused on whether or not pigment numbers are really relevant, So what we're going to do at this point of the video is we're going to move into actually doing a painting demo with this particular paint set that has no available pigment information. And we'll let you make the determination. So friends, with this demo, I am using our little no pigment information budget student grade palette. I decided to throw some super economical paper in the mix. This is Master's Touch Ready Cut Watercolor card. You may remember I used them to make the signatures for that World Watercolor Month sketchbook back in June of last year. I am super happy to be cracking open the Joy Chaser Travel watercolor brush and using it for the first time. This is one of the products I am currently testing and will have a review on towards the end of the month. I decided on painting a still life. It's just a generic mason jar with 2 watercolor brushes and a vine of leaves. There will be a traceable available on Patreon if you are a part of the thrifty community over there. Now, with all of that out of the way, let me backtrack just a little and make sure I drive a couple of points home. The point of this video was not to discourage anyone from learning about pigment numbers or their importance in the art world. I actually encourage quite the opposite. I believe that knowing and understanding pigments, how to read their information, and the characteristics that they carry is a very vital part of art education. Instead, the point of this video was to show that just because the information was not present does not mean the paints aren't any good. At the same time, interjecting really important points about having the pigment information. I really just wanted to make sure we're all on the same page regarding where I stand on the information being presented. Now, turning our attention more towards the demo. Friends, this palette is one of whimsical names. So I am going to try and give you a common name color list so you can have a general idea of what colors I used in the composition. So, for my greens, I used a grass yellow-green color. And to darken that, I mixed it with what I believe to be ultramarine of the set. The blues were phthalo blue and, of course, ultramarine blue. My yellows were more like a cad medium yellow or something along that line, and yellow ochre. I used a medium cool gray. For the browns, I used burnt sienna, a color that reminded me of Indian red and of burnt umber. I mixed my darks, which were my grays and my blacks, using the burnt sienna and the ultramarine. So, if you're using a set with customary names, then you should have a better idea of what colors you can use. Now, if you happen to be wondering about this watercolor set, please don't. The brand of watercolors you use if you decide to follow along is not important. Plus, from what I understand, this set of paints has changed a lot since I originally tested and reviewed them. I will also add, so has my painting style as a whole. As I pushed towards the finish line with this painting, I did run into a little trouble. The side of the watercolor card I was painting on was the smoother side. It really puts you more in the mind of a hot press paper, which in all honesty is not my favorite. Which does really, it doesn't really have the sizing that like the front of the card has on it. So it has the tendency to make the colors feather, and washes can dry with like hard lines. But that's more of a paper issue instead of a paint issue. I have to say, I really enjoyed painting with these brushes. I used a mixture of brushes across Christy Rice's new line. They all held a lot of water to be golden Teflon brushes. The Joy Chaser itself is like a number 6 round that comes to a super sharp point. It seemed to me as if though the brush was like storing water in its ferrule or something and slowly releasing it. Now, I know that's not the case, but the amount of water that you were able to pick up in one load was pretty impressive. I did a painting off screen in the meantime with the chaser, and I have to say that the wet into wet washes was a very enjoyable experience. And you guys will get to see that in an upcoming video, more than likely when we get to the review of the Christy Wright's Art for Joy's Sake palette. Now, here I am working on the glass. I found that painting clear glass or just glass in general is one of my favorite things to paint. It does require a little patience to really get the hang of it, but once you do, it's such a open playing field with the other things that it leads you into painting. Plus, using such an economical watercolor set that you would normally discard due to not having pigment information is a wonderful way to paint worry-free, friends. You won't be bothered with the worry of using up your more expensive paints, and you will find yourself painting with a freedom that allows you to progress because you won't mind painting over and over and over again. So, let's watch the rest of the composition unfold with a little music. Remember, you can control the speed of the video using the gear at the bottom of the video player. That will allow you to slow the time lapse down just in case it's moving a little too fast for you. So friends, there you have it, an entire composition painted with a watercolor paint set that had no available pigment information. Do you think that made a difference? Jump in the comment section and let me know. Do you think pigment information made any bit of difference or is relevant in order for you to be happy with the final outcome of a composition you may be working on? Keep in mind a few things for me. One, yes, pigment information is very important, very relevant, and very vital when it comes to research and learning along your artistic journey. However, they are not mandatory in order for you to paint a composition that you would be happy with for years to come. As long as you're painting in a sketchbook or protecting your painting under matte and UV glass, you shouldn't have any issues enjoying your paints. Thanks for joining me, guys. And remember, as I tell you at the end of every video, just keep creating.